Hi, guys. Welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy. Reincarnation has always fascinated me and truly resonates with my spiritual beliefs about what happens after we leave this earthly realm. The idea of reincarnation and reincarnating with the same souls over and over again just feels right to me. We have had the privilege of interviewing various authors over the years who have delved into this intriguing subject. And since we like to get a bit more soulful on Sundays, I thought what better time to explore the concept of reincarnation and what it would be like if DeeDee Blanchard returned to Gypsy Rose's Blanchard's life through the very life she now carries. So tonight, let's hop into the Wayback Machine and merge it past interviews with the present moment as we delve into the fascinating topic of reincarnation and the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case on this episode of Highly Strange Days on the Power Network. I'm going to roll some credits while I wait for all the Gypsy Rose anti stands. And I guess we sometimes get some stands to roll in. And while I roll those credits, I'm going to go get those pink champagne edibles and white roses that Shannon keeps demanding I put in the backstage staging area. Ugh, diva much? Just kidding. Special shout out to our Power Replay crew and the Dragonflies who had their first pumpkin something something yet. I know I have. Guys, welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy.
Carefully strumming this old guitar, words rolling out into the fire. Never ask why my heart burned blue. Here in the haze where you inspire me. Here in the darkness I hear my cue. Time to find some solitude. Here where my soul bleeds openly, deep in the heart of sin and you. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep into you. Carefully strumming this old guitar again, words rolling out into our fire. If heaven had wings, I would steal them and fly away with you for a while. Here in the essence of gratitude, your dreamy little smile on my lips. I miss my cue, but baby, I had you. Miss my cue, but I had you for that day.
I never ever miss my cue anymore now that I have my power crew. And guess what? Tonight it's Highly Strange Days. So I not only have my power crew, but I've got my lovely co-host Shannon. Hi Shannon. Your mic is muted.
Yes. Hello, Amy.
Hi. How are you
Uh-huh.
doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I am feeling better. I had some things happen that I almost had my power stolen from me, but I, Amy Williamson, am stealing my power back. And I'm just really happy to be here tonight because my audience, they give me energy and love, and in return, I give them energy and love back, and it's just a wonderful feeling.
Amy, I am so proud of you. You are doing so good with that. Man,
Well,
you
we're
strong
taking
woman.
it all the way. I was thinking about like this whole like when you finally find where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do, it's like I always envied those people that were like, I want to be this, and then they just went after it. Like they knew that's what their purpose in life was. And I
Mm-hmm.
finally found that. And like once you get that fire, you don't like really like there are setbacks, and of course there'll be more setbacks, but like you've got your eye on the prize. And I had that when you first met me, and when I started Parawomenradio, I was like at my tip top, had my eye on the prize.
You
But
did.
yeah, but I had
Mm-hmm.
also had a husband that it was difficult. It was difficult. And um it threw me for a loop, and when I thought I'm sure everybody in my life thought I was down for the count, but I'm back up. And this time I don't have those things holding me back anymore. So why would I let other things that are like other people's opinions stop me from doing anything?
You wouldn't. And that's why you are amazing because you're not doing that.
Yeah. And I want to say to anybody, like, I have not lived a perfect life. I have not. I have faced the dark side of me. And I always said, like, working when I worked at the substance abuse facility, I thought it was like the highest honor to work with people who had addictions, because I knew that they were facing their darkest side. And to work with people that had done that and were coming back from it, like just to see the light. But it has to go beyond that, because there has to be a moment in time where once you have faced your dark side and you're back in the light, that's respectful in itself. Like you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
have to be shamed for facing your dark side for the rest of your MF life, right? You don't.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
So, yeah, I feel a lot better about things, and I'm just really feeling hopeful these days.
Well, good. Good.
Are you
And we're
feeling
all
better?
here for you, Amy. We are all here for you when you need
Thank
us.
you. I can feel
Mhm.
it, and it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me. So
Good.
are you feeling better?
Well, I mean, I'm feeling better than I felt last week. Yes, I am feeling better. Hopefully, um, this is done with. And it doesn't come back a third time. I just want to not be beholden to the bathroom.
You get repetitive illnesses, because I remember you
Mhm.
getting bronchitis quite a bit too.
It
So,
was a sinus infection. There was one year that I knew you, and I think I had like 9 sinus infections that year.
oh, yeah, it was just over
Mhm.
and over and over again. You were miserable.
Yep, and then I had shingles twice this year.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
you
do.
get it shows that you hold your emotions in your body. I do too. And I'm
Oh,
trying to figure that out, but yeah, that's what that shows.
Oh
But
dear.
you're a Gen Xer. We were taught to stuff everything down, just stuff it
Yeah.
down. Like there was that funny Simpson episode where Marge is telling Lisa like how she handles stress, and she's like, I just stuff it. Like I don't know the exact thing, but I just remember her being like, I just stuff it way down. As if that's like she's not explosive in itself, but yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's for sure.
so Gypsy Rose has been a busy person, and so we're gonna keep her in the topic. But I have heard like ever since she has announced her pregnancy, I've heard people say like, "Oh, her baby's going to be like her karma," and I got to thinking like, what if like DeeDee came back? Because how do you feel about reincarnation?
I do believe. I don't necessarily believe that, if I'm evil in this lifetime, I'll come back as like a fly. But I do believe that the people that are in your life are always in your life in some way. That they surround you in one form or another throughout your lives.
Okay, so you don't believe like you reincarnate is just anything. It's always like a person.
Yeah, I believe that you reincarnate. Yeah, but not like a fly or, you know,
Uh-huh.
depending
But
on
do you
how
think have
you
you
live.
I've heard people say like they thought their dog was like their mom, or like I've heard that before.
It could be. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a figure in your life that, well, okay, all right, I see what you mean. Huh, I never thought about that way. I
Yeah.
guess it depends on.
I think it's whatever helps your soul. So like if that was helping like cuz I feel like the reason we're reincarnating is to become a whole soul, a whole us so that we can ascend to the wholeness that is God. Many call it God, right? Or,
Yeah, like
whatever you call the higher power.
you're supposed to learn lessons throughout your lifetime. And I don't feel like we would get penalized if we had a particularly nasty lifetime. I believe that we have another opportunity to make it right.
Oops. Yeah,
And
I don't think it's like in up in the other realm. I don't think it's like in the terms that we think good and bad, because like we want to avoid bad at all costs, but bad can become good if we allow it, right? That's like what
mhm,
I'm talking about, facing the darkness, and like you can turn that darkness into good.
mhm.
So I'm not sure, and the whole like, and I often think about like if I think of it that way, and then I'm thinking about like, say Chris Watts, who I think is like a horrible human being, then is his bad just to help? I don't know. Like, see, that's where it stops, and I can't quite like make the. I don't know. But I guess that's what the whole thing is like life is all about like I don't know, and the
Mhm.
exploration of it. So,
So maybe, yeah, yeah. So we're more like agnostic about it. Then we don't
mhm,
know, but we're willing and open to know more.
mhm.
What about like you don't necessarily, get demoted down to a maggot in your next lifetime, but maybe if you are a bully in one lifetime, like the next lifetime you get bullied, so you know what it feels like, and maybe you can learn a lesson from it.
Mhm. Yeah. And maybe it's an agreement that you make with people too. Like you agree, like in this lifetime, you're going to be my bully. And then in next, I get to be yours. Or like, like it could be an
Maybe.
agreement too. Like I've heard people say, like, you make these agreements, like people that cause you the greatest pain are people that you have made that agreement with. And yeah, but it
I can
feels
see
like,
that.
yeah, I have just started like just feeling my way through this kind of stuff. Like, does it feel right in my solar plexus and my heart? Does it, and if it doesn't, if it's like a huge rejection, then I'm like, well, that's probably not it. It's probably like not how, and I move on.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I want the channel to be, is just like an exploration of different topics. Nothing's right or wrong. It's just, and I think everybody has to just explore with their inner knowing. And not everybody's doing that right now. A lot of people are just exploring these topics with their ego. And it's like, you know, stop, you can't talk about that, or why not? Let's explore it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's see what people are saying in chat, and then we'll get going. I'll get the screen ready and
That's
we'll go
fine.
off on our adventure tonight. Um, Luna Plata says maybe Gypsy's child will cause her the worst pain. Maybe that would be something. Heavenly says soul contracts. Let's see. Luna says when you use something as a learning experience, they can make you a better person. Agree totally.
Hmm.
And Chrissy agrees. Um, Hot mess in the city says Chris Watts is not a smart person. No, he's not. I believe people try to fix issues over and over until they break free. I believe that too. And I believe like if you don't do it, then you come back over and over again. And so, you know, and I think that people like to keep others in shame. And so those that have had like colorful lives live in that shame, and that's a way to keep people down. But if you realize it really doesn't matter what these other people think or say about you, like it really doesn't matter, right? It's not,
No.
this isn't the schoolyard anymore. We're adults now, and we can
Hmm.
shed that shit and just be who we are. And that's what I want Parawomen Radio to be. I just want people to be who you are. Be and be as crazy safe as you want to be. We're gonna celebrate it here. Let
Awesome.
your freak flags fly. Um, let's see what else people are saying. Oh, sending you all the good back. Thank you. Okay, so let's get
Mm,
ready. Let me get my screen together and we'll do this.
awesome.
As usual, I've got a lot, so and I never know how fast it's going to go, so I might have to cut some things out. Okay.
We'll figure it
Yeah. Let
Hi
me see.
everyone, how are you?
This isn't where I want to start though.
out.
All right. These are always better when I turn them into videos because I cut all this stuff out.
Oh, nice.
Hi, Maria. Hi, Andrea. So the baby's name will be Karma. Are they Alora or something, or not Alora? I have the baby's possible name in tonight's thing. But
Oh,
first, let's talk about Gypsy Rose announces that she's pregnant. We don't know if she's pregnant with Ken or Ryan, her husband's baby, but she's pregnant. And Gypsy Rose Blanchard is going to be a mother. She says she's pregnant with her first child. Gypsy just announced the news on social media, and these are the photos that she released. She put out a baby registry, which was promptly bought for her.
Oh, good
And
Lord.
yeah, she's really trying to push the whole influencer type deal. And this past week, she was striking YouTube channels, copyright striking. And that's a huge no over here on YouTube. You don't do that shit to people.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. People do it over on TikTok, and TikTok allows it, but YouTube it's harder because there's the Fair Play Use Act over here, and as long as you add substance to the content, then it's fair play use and it's yours to use. And she tried to play over here, and I think she learned her
Ha.
lesson. I hope. So here she is. Here she is. She was gifted a ultrasound, and we're going to watch this ultrasound because the baby does a little something to her during the ultrasound.
Fun. 17 weeks and 2 days. Okay, so for this ultrasound, I've been told that I have to drink a lot of water.
I can't stand her. I hate her influencer voice. It's very sing-songy, just like she was when she was acting like she was a disabled girl with her mother.
I totally thought that was being Alvin, Simon, and Theodore. That's really her voice?
Well, it's sped up, but she is acting like it's very
Yeah.
sing-songy. People are trying to alter it because of her striking channels. And if you sometimes if you alter it, like speed it up, or you do something a little different to it, they can't strike it.
Oh.
Got this stupid music. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to
It's okay. I just had a brain thought, brain something. That voice of hers that she uses, it's her Disney princess voice, Amy.
Oh yes, it is.
Yep.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if there's music here. Oh, I can't stand it. See, it says, y'all, baby Aurora is actually punching TF out of GRB. And then she goes, did she just punch me? Ha 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 ha. So
Oh yeah, look
DeeDee's
at
in
that.
there. Yeah. You can really see her face here. And even though GRB has no problem showing this poor babe, which she said she wasn't going to show the baby on camera, I won't she's not showing the face of the baby. So even though the baby's in the womb, that's like respectful and kicking her ass too. So the baby is doing that. So I thought to myself, like, I've seen people talk a little bit about this, and I did a Google search, and mother reincarnates as granddaughter. I thought, like, how often does that happen? I wonder. And turns out other people are wondering it too.
Ooh.
And so I thought we would look at some of it. Um, you can see over on TikTok, there's people where this woman says, my mother's soul reincarnated as my granddaughter. I haven't looked at any of this stuff. I've just pulled it up. So I thought we could like kind of go through it a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. Oops, I silenced it. Wait.
How do I know this? Because I'm a professional psychic medium, and as I've shared in many other videos, each time one of my daughters is pregnant, I am given a window into the soul's journey. I have 4 grandchildren, and each of their soul's journey has been quite different. As I said, I've shared about them before, but this one was, of course, super special for me. So earlier in my daughter's pregnancy, I was introduced to a soul who was a contender to be the soul who entered my newest granddaughter's physical body. And it was no surprise to me with her sass and spunk. She really reminded me a lot of my daughter's friends. So I thought, oh, this soul is going to be a perfect fit in this family. But just, I'm going to say, weeks before Emma was actually born, I started hearing this song. It's an old Vanessa Williams song. You went and saved the best for last. And then, isn't it? Sometimes it's all a big surprise. I kept hearing this for days and days, all day long, especially during the morning when I first woke up. And I'm like, ooh, there's going to be some sort of a surprise about Emma's birth. I can't wait. I kept hearing it. And I thought, I wonder what this is about. And not long before she was born, my head starts tingling. I check in. I see my mom. And she's showing me that she's very excited and that she's queued up, and this is not literal. This is just the way she showed me. She's holding her nose like she used to do when she'd jump in the water, because that was very her. She's showing me she's holding her nose to jump back in, dive back in. I was thrilled. I didn't really talk to my daughter about it until afterwards. I told her I thought there was going to be a big surprise and she was going to be very happy with it. Now, why did my mother reincarnate so quickly? Because, that is relatively quick. It's often between more like, 10 or 100 years in human time. However, it made perfect sense because they had such a strong bond. Not only had I seen them together in a past life during a past life regression, but in the life that my mother just lived,
So a
my
lot
daughter
of this
took care of my mother for 2 of her final years. She was.
This mom believes that her daughter is her grandmother.
All right, this is what I don't like about TikTok. I cannot figure out how to operate it. I can't figure out how to pause the stuff. But so we have to kind of believe that she's a medium and go along the lines of she's a medium. So that's just her word, right?
Yeah. Because we have no other proof that what she says happened. So we just have to trust her.
Yeah. So let's see if there's anybody else that has any more proof. And I also have some other things, some videos on how often we reincarnate with each other. How do we know that? That kind of stuff.
Where'd you get your looks from? Your stunning face. I mean,
Thank you. I look just like my mommy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one, it appears that they look a lot alike. They're thinking they're reincarnated. Let me see.
Well, I mean, you are going to look like your relatives usually.
Yeah, I mean, you have the genetics there, and yeah. I do know, like, when my one cousin was born, my grandfather died, or I'm sorry, passed away the night before my cousin was born, and my grandpa had really blue eyes, and that is the only daughter in the family. They had 3 children, and they both have brown eyes, and she has the blue eyes, and she was born the day after. Yeah. And my cousin used to say, and everyone thought it was so cute, but I'm sure now they just think it's like spooky. But he used to say, because they called him Pa, and he said, yeah, Pa's eyes rose up out of Pa, and he does the little jazz hands, raising up, and floated over to Joanna. It went into her eyes. Which, I mean, he was a 3-year-old kid, and like for me, I feel like kids that just come from the creator, they're like the closer, like that's why we are all in love. Well, the most people are all in love and want to be by kids, is because they just came from the source, and it's something like we all want. We want that energy. It's beautiful energy. So that's my opinion.
What about
I'm
those
just
of us that don't like kids?
Well,
Ah.
then you don't like them. You don't like them, but they do say things that, like, they're the ones that are more likely to have, the playmate that nobody sees and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. But I found some things like in, is it Quora? Is that how you say it? Quora? I've never heard anyone say this out loud.
Yeah, I think
Quora.
it's pronounced Quora. Uh-huh.
Quora. Somebody put, how often does a mother reincarnate as the child of their own child? And this person says, I don't know if they deleted some answers, but it says, I love all these answers. Not sure why they bothered to respond. They haven't a clue as to how reincarnate, let alone why we might reincarnate, yet it doesn't prevent them from weighing in. So allow me to weigh in on a topic that I've been researching for the past decade. First,
Wow.
let's let science lay some of the groundwork for this answer. If you examine the work of Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia, you'll find peer-reviewed papers on their website talking about cases of reincarnation that he examined and verified during the course of his career. That may take you into the work of Dr. Jim Tucker, who replaced him at UVA, and a recent talk with John Cleese of Monty Python fame, talking about the cases he's examined of verifiable cases of reincarnation, searchable online by using their names, a recent talk at UVA. Do you want to read some of this, Shannon? Or do you want me to just read
Well,
it?
it's quite small on my end.
Oh, okay. I watched the clip last night. I think Dr. Tucker may have said 15,000, but it might have been 25, or I'm sorry, 25, 1,500 or 2,500. These are verifiable cases of reincarnation in the United States alone, verified through scientific protocol and research, not a theory, not his opinion, not any religious belief whatsoever, but data. You might
Oh, I
look
got it.
at,
I got it to be big. Do you want me to read?
perhaps start at, you might look at Carol Bowman's
Okay.
work.
All right. You might look at Carol Bowman's work, another student of Stevenson's, who wrote Children's Past Lives. She's been researching and helping parents to come to understand the process for decades. She has written extensively on the topic and is often called upon to help parents navigate what their children are saying. Do you know anything about Carol Bowman, Amy?
No, I'm like just I've always thought about reincarnation, but I'm just now like really getting into it because I'm really into ancestry and bringing like curses through the generations and getting rid of them. And like, I'm really into that right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You want me to continue?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In my case, I've been filming people under deep hypnosis talking about the process for over a decade. I've filmed 50 cases to date, many skeptics, jaded types, disbelievers, non-believers, and believers. It didn't matter. They all said the same things. People under deep hypnosis say the same things consistently. And if one compares what they say with the work of Dr. Helen Wambach, a psychologist in New Jersey who had 2,000 cases, tell her about the process, i.e., the soul or conscious energy doesn't enter the fetus until after the 6th month. Or the cases of Michael Newton, 7,000 over 30 years. He told me in an interview for my film and book Flipside, he didn't have a case where the soul or conscious energy entered the fetus until the 4th month. They all
Oh.
describe the same process.
Interesting. So,
Mhm.
how many months pregnant is Gypsy Rose right now? Chris C probably knows. You can keep going, but I'm just really curious, like how many months pregnant? How many months pregnant was she at the ultrasound where the baby punched her? How many months do you guys know?
Isn't that typically like the 4th month where they go in for their first ultrasound?
So. I think so, but she's been doing like she knew the baby was a girl for I think they can do things sooner than they used to. So I don't know.
Oh, okay. You want me to keep going then?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Incarnation works the same way reincarnation does. We choose to come here. We choose our parents. We choose our path and journey, and our friends signed up to assist. Every single person you know or have ever met planned this incarnation prior to coming here. We may have friends we ask to assist because they're so good at doing what they do, like asking a great actor to appear in our play. If they're available, they will. In terms of being our mom's mom or our mom's daughter, it's the same. When we are back home planning our next incarnation, we have a classroom filled with people that we normally incarnate with. Newton called them a soul group in his research. But classroom may be just as accurate, as the class itself has nothing to do with familial associations, but may have much to do with thematic ones doing the same kind of work. That's kind of what I understand. Not
Yeah.
necessarily the classroom, but that you're with people you normally incarnate with. You just shift positions, I guess, shift relationships.
Yeah, but I think he means classroom as in we're all learning different lessons, different types of lessons from each other. Um, and so it's kind of it's like a galactic classroom for
Yeah,
whatever we're all searching towards, like we're all have to be like trying to become something and to like it would I don't want to offend anybody, but like going up to heaven is like an ascension, and I don't think everybody gets to ascend right away. Like an ascension is kind of like the merge back into the whole, into God. And so I don't think we get to do that. Like not everybody when you die is going to ascend to heaven. I just don't think that's going to happen. You have to keep at it until your soul is ready to do that.
right.
That's only my belief. I mean, like everybody's allowed to their own beliefs. And if you look at all the major religions, like the whole, like the whole mm, dynamics of it is the same. Like, like the teachings are the same, but like man is like peppered its own thoughts and whatever into it. But they're all trying to get towards the same thing. Like we're all trying to get back to God, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I would think that if you kept going to and from heaven, that you wouldn't want to leave. You wouldn't
Yeah.
want to leave the presence of everything.
Mhm. Because they taught you in when people are talking about their reincarnation stories, a lot of times none of them want to leave. Like the
Mm-hmm.
longer they stay, it's the more, they know it's the more dangerous because um, yeah,
Kind of like going to hell. The longer you're there, or like Hades,
mhm, yeah.
the underworld. Yeah, don't eat anything down there. Don't eat or drink anything. And
Paul
Don't
T
want to get
says, I
stuck
don't
on.
really believe in reincarnation, as I think there are more people alive now than have died. I think more souls are being born, and that's why there's the lower energies happening, because they're just new souls.
Right.
They haven't lived. Thank you so much, Laura Lynn. Laura Lynn gave us a $5 super sticker, and she
Oh,
says, love you, Pair
cool.
Women. We love you back, Laura Lynn. Thank you.
Yeah,
Why
that
don't we do this?
explains what you were just saying. That explains why when there are people that you meet, and I mean, I know I've met people and I just feel like they have an old soul. That's a
Uh-huh.
very common experience. So that might be what you're talking about.
Well, I feel like we attract those that like are like us. And so like I've noticed Parawomen Radio, we attract older souls, people that have kind of been through it. They're thoughtful. Um, they just have a lot of wisdom. And are just, and I feel like younger souls attract younger people, and I just think our vibrations kind of like attract, but when we're in the low energy, we'll attract the lower newer souls and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean like a new soul can't be a beautiful soul too, like there's just like all kinds of things happening that we'll never know until we're gone. And now there's the whole like I really believe in aliens now, and so now there's the whole like how do they fit into the whole dynamic of it all. I just yeah, just
Hmm.
exploring it. I just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where do
Yeah.
they come from into this? Like, are we earth people, and who we are, we're earth, and we're trying to vibe back to the light that is the earth light, or what is it,
Hmm.
or is it, are we all one, even that like do we sometimes reincarnate as aliens? Because we if you believe in aliens, then there's got to be other planets and solar systems, and why wouldn't we not do that too?
Right.
And then there was once, well, I'm getting too far out there. I'm getting too woo woo. I'm a
You
woo
fell,
woo girl. I'm
you fell
letting
down
my
the rabbit hole.
world I'm pulling you down the rabbit hole. Don't
You,
do it. Don't.
okay.
Let's get
Do you
back.
want me to keep reading?
Yes, keep reading. Go ahead.
Okay. We tend to work with people we like. So if someone played the role of mom in this lifetime, and I'm not implying played the good mom, sometimes the bad mom helps us to learn the lessons we signed up to learn. So she may be asked to do a repeat performance. We may ask them to assist again, but we may not. We may want to learn new information. There's nothing in this research related to religion. People aren't forced to come back to play a lesser role. They can opt out or choose not to return. There's no one wagging fingers at us. Sorry. But we do wag fingers at ourselves if we don't learn what we set out to learn. The process is not overseen by anyone but ourselves and our teachers. Full
I believe
stop.
that. I
Huh.
believe that's true. We put a lot of
Yeah.
stress on ourselves that we don't need to be putting on, but we just have to have the understanding that if you
Hmm.
believe in reincarnation, if you believe in all of this, that if you don't do what you need to do, what you've come here to do, you're going to keep doing it until you do it. Like I have this feeling that I have repeated this whole process of what I've been through the last, like, I'm going to say it's like, I like to say it's 3 years, but really it's been about 10 years of this whole, like, when I was like, I always did weird things when I was younger. I was the one at the meditation class when I was 15, 16. I took astrology classes like for my birthdays. I wanted uh, tickets to lectures by authors like Marianne Williamson and um, those kind of authors that write kind of the more spiritual type things. And so I've always thought there was more stuff out there.
Okay.
I lost what I was saying. I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay.
went too far around. I had my brain bleed still. I went too far off where I was.
You were
Take me
talking
back.
about how you were always drawn to strange things, doing
Yeah,
things.
I've always been drawn to strange things, and I'm the black sheep in my family because of that. And they allowed it, like, to a certain extent when I was growing up. Like, I used to I remember taking a Reiki class, and at one point in our little living room, I had like my Reiki class. I was like 16 years old, and so I wasn't having a party. I had all these 30, 40, 50-year-olds in my living room learning Reiki. So, like, I've always felt like there was more out there than,
Yeah.
and I think that I hope that we can all be respectful to each other, and in this discussion. And do you think it's possible that DeeDee will come back as Gypsy's child, as her daughter?
Hmm. Well, it sounds like from what this person on Quora was saying that if Gypsy wants her to.
I've always looked at my mother and thought, why did we have this agreement that you were going to be the mother? Why did we agree to this? What were we thinking? You like, sometimes I think my mother, like, is a new soul or something, because it's like, wow. At one point, she was kind of following me and my soul journey when I was like, from like, I started at about 14 to before I went away to college at 19. So I was like doing all that around, and that was abnormal because that was back in the 80s, and that wasn't 80s and 90s. That's not a normal thing. It's more normal now, but it was
Yeah.
very abnormal. There was no like one of my best friends' name was Wednesday, and there was no
Yeah.
Wednesdays back then. There just was
Uh-huh.
not. So I think it's possible if that's their soul's journey. Do you want to keep reading this, or do
Yeah,
you want
I
to
could
keep?
if you want me to.
Okay, yeah, keep going. We'll read a little. Well, much more is, yeah, there's only a little bit left. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Where was I at?
Um, you read about,
Okay, I think
I think
I've
there's
heard
nothing.
I've heard numerous hospice care workers.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think that's
Yeah.
where.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard numerous hospice care workers talk to their patients and hear, this time I was the mother. Next time I'm going to be the daughter. I have personal knowledge of someone whose mom on her deathbed said, I'll be your mother again, as if she could comprehend what that meant. At the time, I did not, but I do now.
Mm.
So I'm passing this along. You don't have to do all this research. Now you know. You chose your mother, and you may choose her again, and she in turn may choose you again as mother, daughter, sister, brother. That's just in the data. It's really up to you and your mom, of course. She can say, oh dear, no, I had way too much work handling you this most recent lifetime. I don't want to play that role again, but I will play another role for you that has a different outcome so I can learn about that. It's not my theory, opinion, or belief. People say these things consistently under deep hypnosis. I've been filming them do so for over a decade. Believe, don't believe, that's not my purview. I'm just reporting. You could ignore this information completely. Not everyone signs up to learn how the play ends. But at the very least, know that it's up to you and her. My 2 cents.
That was really well written.
It was.
That was by Richard Martini. Can I? I
Hmm.
don't think I'm signed. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, I'm following him.
Yeah, you
Um,
should maybe you could reach out to him and
yeah. I
although
need
he's
to get the query letter together. I've just been super self-conscious about my writing lately. I don't know why, but I'm going to break through that and get the query letter and just start asking people to be a guest and get the calendar together and all that good stuff.
sure.
If I'm not doing something, chances are, you guys, it's because I'm trying to break through my fear of whatever it is that I am fearing at the moment. And I'm really trying to work through these things. And it's working, it's happening, but just know that I'm working through my issues as you guys are watching this. And I hope it helps inspires others to do the same, to just start doing it where you're at.
Yeah,
You got to
it
start
is.
somewhere.
It's very inspirational, Amy. Thank you. I honor
Oh,
that.
and I feel like I'm like tooting my horn too, and I'm not. I'm not. I just am not a horn tooter. Like I am the person that thinks I'm the worst person in the room. Like I am that person. I might not. You might not look at me and be like, "Hey, that girl thinks she's an awful person," but I'm right there with anybody who's been knocked down and told to shut up. You've got too big of a personality, and I'm just learning to let it kind of come out and be like, well, if you don't like me, you don't like me. I don't care if you don't like me. Um, so, so I thought we could look at some videos on reincarnation and just more of do we do it, just from different points of views. I've got a few of them. And I don't always I just look at the videos, the first part of it. I don't always look at the whole video. Um, and we also, when we watch it for fair play use, we speed it up, we talk over it, we don't read or watch the whole thing, but I will put the links to everything we view in the description. And this is what I do for fair play use. I want to drive you to that person. I don't want to steal from that person. And I like to mishmash a lot of different things into one live, and then you make your decision on how you think it is. I'm not here to tell you how to think. I don't want to be told how to think, and so I don't want to be the one to tell you how to think. These are all just our opinion, for educational and entertainment purposes only. But let's see what people are saying in chat. I want to go over and say hi to chat real quick.
Sure.
Heavenly says, I must have been seeing double, not from anything fun either. I don't know what they must be ha-haing. I love when they have conversations in chat. I shows me that a community is growing. Hi Cindy. Cindy Hobbs is are going to be our guest next week. She's a psychic and she had some traumatic things happen being a creator, and with this whole Gypsy Rose thing, and the strikes, and I just thought it would be good to bring her on and talk about her experience. And yeah. um Mary Privet says, my younger brother used to say and do things when he was little. We would say it never happened, and he would say, yes, it did. It happened when I was big and didn't live with you. Oh, See, kids say those things. And at
Yeah.
a certain age, like in the reincarnate, we can do another live on reincarnation. Like reincarnation fascinates me, but in the videos, like in the kid videos, like they are spot on with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But at a certain age, they forget it. It's weird. It just stops. Giselle, you got it again, my friend. What are you doing? She gets She gets it, and she gets it multiple times. I actually haven't seen anybody else get it since Giselle's been getting it. She has the crown. She is our queen of the Zalco. And I don't know how to stop it. It was something that's my weird sense of humor, you guys, right there. And I don't know how to stop it. That's my blondness or whatever. I don't know. I thought it would be funny, and I don't know where I put it in for it to be reoccurring. But if you get Zalgoed, it's just a joke. Don't leave. It's just our little thing over here. Bobby Gizmo says she are the sex of the baby by she knew the sex of the baby by the blood test. That must be the way they can do it now. Faster. My
That's
younger
pretty
brother
cool.
used Yeah, isn't it? I heard because she got it really early, and I heard someone say like something about like they can do it faster now. My
Huh.
younger brother used to do and say things when he was very little. Retrograde is almost over on the 28th, but then, there's like 3 or 4 days where minor stuff can go wrong. But yes, Mercury retrograde can be a heavy time for me.
Oh gosh.
Oh no, I'm not taking your crown. You got it. You've got it, my friend. I might even have to make a little emoji for you, my friend. Okay, let's keep going. I
Sure.
have a few videos, and then at the end of this live, I'm gonna play an old Parawomenradio live or uh podcast that we did where we interviewed Kenneth Gould. He is from the UK. It was when Beverly Van Pelt and I did the interview, and I'm just going to let that play straight through. I won't, will like, you can stay, like, it's probably going to be a longer live, like a 2 or 3 hour live. So if you can't stay the whole time, I'm just going to play the last, I'm just going to play the live. Or the podcast. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. The podcast it's an hour long, and I'm just going to play it at the end and go down into the chat with people. But we've got a few more things here on reincarnation. Here we have, did I do the algorithm dance party? I don't think I did. Like, let's do the algorithm dance party where we just warm up our fingers and dance them right up to the hearts and thumbs up button. It's just a free way to help my channel out. We're coming to you today on Facebook and YouTube. Hi, guys. So yeah, and check to see if you're subscribed, because we would love to have you as a Power Crew member. Let me make sure you're seeing it. You are.
I do hope you're all well. It's Claire Broad here. I'm back with another video. As promised, I'm going to be addressing another question that has been put to me from the lovely community of people that I have here following my work, learning and growing as we all are together. It's just lovely to have you here. If you're new to my channel, my name is Claire Broad. I'm a medium, a spiritual teacher and a best-selling author. I have 25 years experience as a working professional practitioner. I'm also obviously a channel for spirit, and I have brought the wisdom of spirit through books and through public appearances and through the media. So I have a vast amount of experience. So in this video then, I would like to share that experience with you, give you my thoughts and just give you something to think about, because it's a great question that's been put to me. It's about reincarnation this week. So if that's something you're interested in, then I think you're going to like this one. Let's dive in. Fabulous is, Claire, I believe in reincarnation. I'm wondering, when I look at family members and see the resemblance that comes right down the line from great-great-grandfathers down to a grandchild, for instance, do you reincarnate into the same family line every time so that you bring and carry on the DNA of that family forever and ever? Fascinating question, eh? I thought it was anyway, and I want to address it here because it's not one that I'd ever really considered before, even though I'm absolutely on board and in line with this lady's thinking, which is that reincarnation is real. So let me start there with the whole reincarnation bit, just to give you a bit of context. You may be watching this video. I'm well aware, if you are a spiritualist or if you believe in mediumship, or if you're cynical or skeptical even, you may be watching it thinking, I don't believe in reincarnation, there's no evidence for it. Or you may already just accept it as part of your faith, religious philosophy, spiritual understanding, because, you know, the subject of reincarnation is certainly not new, and it has been believed and thought to be real for millennia. And I'm in the camp of believing it's real. Now, let me tell you why. I always speak from my own personal experience because that's what I know. I can't speak from any other place. And you are always free to accept or reject what I say as you see fit. That's the beauty of a spiritual pathway. But for me, I can remember as a child having memories coming out of dreams and experiencing what I feel to be past life memories, and knowing that I couldn't have that knowledge any other way. As I reflect back, I think, how did I have that understanding, or how was I seeing those things at such a young age? So I had experiences as a tot, having memories that were surfacing in my consciousness after my sleep state. So I do believe in reincarnation. I've also had it proven to me personally by the spirit world through readings. Spirit guides have spoken about it. And I've also had what I would class as soul connections, where I connect with people who I know are soul family, who are, you know...
This is again where we have to believe that you have to believe in psychic mediums, which I'm not saying I don't believe in psychic mediums, but I'm trying to look for more of proof.
Something more tangible.
Yeah. So I have this guy, How to Find Loved Ones Who Have Been Reincarnated. Let's see what he's got to say.
Jumbo Fellow Adventurers, Mike Dooley. Jumbo Fellow Adventurers, Mike Dooley. Tuesday morning, time for a spiritual tune-up. Thanks for all the great questions you're posting below on Facebook or Instagram. Questions posted on the day of a broadcast are the ones that I will use as talking points in the coming days. I do this Monday through Friday. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the waving and the interaction and the sharing and the stars. It makes this possible. Thank you. Thank you. Great question today. Kind of fun, almost heartbreaking, given that the answer could go a certain way. And I think we fear that it does, which would be devastating, but it doesn't go that way. So I'm happy to answer this one. How to find loved ones who have reincarnated. Specifically, Mike, if we die after a deceased loved one.
I was thinking in particular, how is DeeDee going to do this? If she's going to do it, how is she going to do it?
Chooses to reincarnate. Will we be able to find them? Oh, that would be so devastating that if you lost your brother, as the questioner elaborated, long ago, and then you pass, but your brother's already come back and reincarnated. I mean, is it two ships in the night and you'll never to see each other again? This question presumes things or speculates that things may be a certain way in which they are not. And so we are always together, forever connected to the people we love from this lifetime and all other lifetimes. I've got a couple of different angles for you to understand this. But first, one thing that makes sense and that is echoed in a lot of really cool, usually channeled books, is that we are multi-dimensional beings and that time is an illusion. So to understand that, there are probably literally an infinite number of variations of each one of us. Every time we make a decision in our life, we go both ways and each one thinks we're the only one. Okay. And then we live in a world where other people are making decisions. In one lifetime, you could have 20,000 varieties of yourself. And now this boggles the mind a little bit, but then we have forever, and then we reincarnate. all on a timeline. What I just described all unfolds on a timeline, and time is an illusion. What I want you to take away from this is being multidimensional means you're in many places at the same time. Whether another version of you, as you know yourself to be, or another incarnation of you in the past and or in the future. Your future selves already exist. We're everywhere, always at once. We are of God, by God, pure God. So there's not this romantic version.
I want that to happen where we stop putting God up into the sky when God is here with us. God. I don't think God is he or she, but God seems to be, like it's been burnt in my mind since childhood. So that's the word. Or I used to say the creator too. The creator is with us, and we need to stop putting the creator up into the sky because it's everywhere. That's how we make heaven on earth, is we bring it through us.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think that's what we're all like trying to do, is get our vibration so that we can get to that part where ascension is going back into like whatever, a heaven or whatever you want to call it, where we are part of the whole again. And I think we have volunteered to do this to bring greater light and joy to God again. Like we're out here like kind of warriors, all trying to bring more light to the whole, right?
Yeah.
That's what I
Yes.
think. And there's a lot of this talk about multiple timelines of yourself happening at the same time. Have you noticed that Hollywood, a lot of what comes through Hollywood kind of is like the truth of what is really happening out there? Like half of it's like delusional type like stuff, superhero, but some of it is like the actual truth of what's happening in the world. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
And it seems like this whole matrix theory is kind of becoming a thing among spiritual community, I've noticed. I've been away for a while from meditation and listening to, teachings and stuff. And it seems like there's this whole, like there's multiple timelines of your life going on at the same time. And at any moment, if you make a higher or lower decision, you ascend up or you ascend down. And you can keep going up and up and up and up until you finally ascend, or you can keep going down lower and lower and lower until, because I can see like my life at one point, I was living fast and free. And
Mhm.
I think one of the reasons why I'm so interested in prison reform is that, like, I don't know the whole, like the saying, but there for the grace of God go me. Like I could have ended up in a very bad place like prison. Luckily, my sense of like right and wrong led me out of that. But and I got lucky a lot of times. Like when you do anything that's like, because back in the day, smoking the devil's lettuce was illegal. So there's people in prison for that, and now
Yeah.
it's legal. So
Yeah.
like if you've ever done anything illegal in your life, you could have ended up in a different place. And that's why I think I might have, well, also I have a lot of compassion for people, but I think like I worry about them, like what, because they're coming out, like we think that they're going away forever, and that's just not the case. They're coming out, and we're never going to make society better if we don't fix what's flawed. So, and our justice system is extremely flawed, especially in the United States.
Oh, yeah, it is.
See, I went off on a tangent. Sorry, guys. Let me get back to reincarnation.
Of reality where things unfold along a linear timeline. And if you're in Tokyo and your soulmate is in Los Angeles, you may never meet. That does not exist. It's all illusions for the adventure of believing in here and there and have not, et cetera, et cetera. What you got to know is that you are right now connected to those you've loved and lost. It's just that this version of you, in the thick of the soup, believing that you are, fill in your name here, believing that you are good at math and bad at art, believing that you were born of so-and-so on a certain date and you've got however many more decades or centuries to live, that version of you is unaware of your simultaneous existence in other probabilities, in other parallel worlds, in other reincarnations. Yet there is a portion of you, a higher self, that is connected to all of that, and your higher self, and your brother's higher self, and your loved ones who have passed higher self are all getting together for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day forever and ever. And you're communicating, you're laughing, you're planning your next incarnation, you're planning your last incarnation. Time's an illusion. It's all really wonky. And it's only you here now, this teeny little sliver of your true identity that is unaware of this continued camaraderie that exists between all people in love in your spiritual family. And the truth of it is we're all spiritual family and we're all in love with one another. We all know each other in a deep, profound way. We're just pretending in this lifetime that we don't. In this lifetime, we're bamboozled.
They talk about also like Earth being where it strips us of our memories. Like we have to figure it out because it takes those memories, those records. They're calling it, I hear a lot, Akashic records away from you so that you don't. Another reason why you're doing these lifetimes is each lifetime you store it in your records and you're trying to access that inner knowledge, that inner knowing, because each life you're doing something to make it so that each life you don't have to do that again.
By the illusions. So we think that there's lost opportunity. Oh, I would have, could have, should have. Oh, but what if I don't find my sister? Utterly impossible. So reincarnation exists, but it is not as linear as you think, which is really great news. We are multidimensional, so there's other portions of you that are connected. And when I say your higher self, is fully aware of what's going on, I'm not talking about some weird, esoteric, theoretical, higher version with no personality. I'm talking about you. You are your higher self. You are just presently experiencing a little splinter of your higher self. So instead of saying higher self, which kind of puts it far away, your true self. Your true self is best buds with all who have passed, and many more from other incarnations and from probable realities and parallel realities. Nothing is ever lost. No connection is ever broken. Wherever there was once love, there is eternal love. No matter what hardships you've been through together, no matter how angry they were with you at one point or how angry you have been with them at one point, there's only love. We're all.
So he's basically saying that it doesn't matter that she plotted to unalive her mother, that I don't buy the theory that there's only love. I don't think there's only love. I think there's both light and dark. What do you think? Did I lose Shannon?
Sorry, I was muted. It's not something that I've ever really thought of before. So I'm not sure that. I don't think there's only love. No, I don't. I agree with you.
So I thought that before we go into the last portion, I did find this thing where it's 10 signs Gypsy Rose is just like her mother, DeeDee Blanchard. So they have a lot of the same mannerisms and personality traits, I think. So let's look at this and then we'll go into the interview with the author.
Sure.
Rose Blanchard is just like her mother, DeeDee Blanchard. First up, we have the interview with her husband where she was trying to control him. So a clip at the moment went viral on TikTok and circulated across the internet. What happened? Well, Gypsy basically told her husband to shut up when he said something that was a little bit embarrassing. She was talking about what it was like spending all those years in prison and the fact that she has changed a lot over that time period. She jokes around and says, "Oh, I went from 19 to 32 so quick. Geez, I can't believe I got so old." And this is when Ryan says, "You never went to school either." Gypsy is clearly very embarrassed about this comment and she quietly tells Ryan to shut up, but she says it under her breath while the camera is still rolling. After that, her husband looks completely defeated and he puts his head down, refusing to speak. At other points in the interview, you can actually see Gypsy squeezing his arm when she wants him to be quiet. And even though the quality of the video isn't that great, it's pretty clear that she found a way to stop him talking, basically whenever she wants to. The whole thing seems like a toxic relationship and it reminds everyone of what her mother used to do to her. Now, moving on to the pregnancy rumors that Gypsy Rose and her husband have been circulating on social.
Yeah, that is upsetting that DeeDee's nose was broken. We don't know who, but Gypsy did have the bruises on her knuckle, and in the autopsy, DeeDee's nose was broken. And then during the scan, she talks about the nose. I think Ken says something about she's gonna have Gypsy's nose, and it's just the things. It's like an alternate world that we're living in. Like, it's just crazy.
Social media. Ryan posted a photo on Instagram that showed his arm wrapped around Gypsy's belly, and in the caption he wrote, "Me and my little family cuddling together." That was obviously supposed to make it sound like the couple are expecting, even though Gypsy never actually confirmed these rumors herself. They've also been fueling even more pregnancy rumors by posting photos of them visiting a medical facility in Lake Charles. This has fans concerned for the two of them, considering a lot of people now believe that Gypsy has completely turned into her mother and that she is dangerous. She was released on parole in December after serving 8 years of a 10-year sentence for her role in plotting the death of her mother. Next up, we have the accusations of being fame hungry. Since being released from prison, Gypsy now has more than 9.
That is something that she is DeeDee 2.0. DeeDee loved the fame, attention, and Gypsy has this.
Followers on TikTok. Her attitude and enthusiasm to lean into her stardom have made her a darling of the internet. Fans have been calling her a queen and commending her courage after everything that she has been through. Despite her video updates having the slightly clumsy quality of someone who's never been on the internet before, most people have welcomed Gypsy Rose with open arms. She has millions of followers.
Is that true? Like, it must be true because she has millions of followers, but are people following her because they adore her, or are they following her because she's infamous?
I think it's because she's infamous. Absolutely. Because I certainly don't adore her.
No, I don't follow her either. I kind of took when they were doing the blackout. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not going to go to her. I don't go and click on her stuff. If I play her stuff, I play it from another content creator's page so that they get the attention and the money for it, not her.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Freedom. Next, we have to talk about the fact that she is a secret millionaire. According to one source, Gypsy's net worth has reached an estimated $3 million.
And it is rumored too that DeeDee had some money stockpiled away.
I bet she did.
Now, how does one who spent
in the act, they tried to make it seem like she was saving up her checks from the dad, but really it's all she would have these fundraisers where she would just put out the call and people would just give them money. It's kind of like what they do over on TikTok, what they're doing to her on TikTok. She just puts out the call and the money comes. It's amazing.
Why
There's got
can't
to be some kind of karma attached to that shit doing that.
yeah, or in the same token, or not in the same token, but on the other hand, I wish that I had those skills.
Yeah. Well, I would feel entirely guilty though, because over on TikTok, the people that are giving the money are people that don't have the money. They're like buying these huge gifts to give to people. The kids are giving them to the millionaires, and they don't have the money to do it. Like, there's been like stories of kids that get these credit cards to do it, and they're going to debt. And I would feel entirely guilty taking people
Yeah.
that don't have it to give it to me. Like, I only want it if you have it. I
Yeah.
don't want other people's money. I don't want to take it for nefarious reasons. I don't need that. I don't need that energy. I'm trying to clean up my own energy here.
Years in prison with no previous employment experience become a millionaire when they get released. Well, her financial status is undeniably linked to her unexpected prominence as a public figure. The documentaries and true crime adaptations featuring her have not only contributed to her net worth, but they've also fueled the ongoing public interest in her case. From participating in documentaries that delve into the complexities of her case, signing book deals,
They're lies. They're book deals and their documentaries that it's all lies. Well, not all,
engaged to
but
a
it's
prison
peppered with a
pen
lot of lies.
pal. Brian Scott Anderson started writing to her after he watched the HBO documentary Mummy
I didn't hear the beginning of this one.
I didn't catch that either. Who?
On April the 12th of 2019, Gypsy was reported to be engaged to a prison pen pal. Brian Scott Anderson started writing to her after he watched the HBO documentary Mummy, Dead and Dearest, which, as we all know, tells Gypsy's story. They knew each other for about a year and a half, and Gypsy's family approved of him. In an interview, she talked about her morning wedding with Ryan, saying
How
it was
does this tie her back to DeeDee though? How is this like DeeDee? Because DeeDee, we only know like the one guy. Like Rod, I think there was rumors that there was another guy in Missouri, or was it Missouri she lived in? I forget what. I think it's Missouri.
Yeah, I think it's Missouri too.
Yeah, I think DeeDee only liked one man, like Rod. Like, I think Rod broke her heart, and DeeDee never really got over it.
Mm-hmm.
was very, very small. We didn't have any guests. It was just something for him. In the future, she said they do plan on having a reception, like a redo wedding with all of their family and their friends and the dress and the cake. She said, our prison wedding was just something where we could make our vows to each other. If I had another chance to redo everything, I don't know if I would go back to when I was a child and tell my aunts and uncles that I'm not sick and Mummy makes me sick. She went on to say, no one will ever hear me say I'm glad she's gone or I'm proud of what I did. I regret it every single day.
Okay, I don't know how this goes in with who DeeDee is. Like, how does that make her like? Or anyway, I've already said that.
But that brings us to our next point: the fact that Gypsy initially lied about committing the crime. On June 14th of 2015, sheriff's deputies.
Let's move along. I don't think, but she is a lot like they are, like mother, like daughter.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's just what she grew up knowing is how to con people. That's all she knows.
She was definitely born into, but it's come out that the Khan family is actually Rod's side. Like, it's weird. Okay, so let's go on. We're gonna go hop into the Wayback Machine. I want to show you the person that we're talking about. This is hold on. This is Kennith Gould. Time and time again, my family and reincarnation. It's an interview. I don't even know what we said in this interview, so it's gonna be like, what did I say? But Kenneth N. Gould, a professional artist, lives in the southwest of England, and this book is the result of 28 years of painstaking but ultimately rewarding research. This is a complete true story, a chronicle of a chain of incredible and fascinating events which have taken place in the author's life. These are not ordinary events, but encounters with the next world, proving beyond doubt the existence of life after death. Kenneth recounts how his Granny Alice, through the years of cooperation with a world famous medium, requested him to act as her pen and her savior in order to right some wrongs in her latterly tortured life and become her chronicler and agent on this earth, and how she informed him of the tasks required in order to fulfill her wishes. As the book shows, he has been able to accomplish these and set her record straight. So it looks like we're talking about before the term generational curses, or maybe this is where it was coined. Like this was around the time it was coined, but it sounds like that's what he is doing. And if DeeDee were to come back, I think it would be to get rid of that generational curse, because that's got to be a curse that's going to be in the family for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you believe in generational curses, which I do 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not going to stop and start this. I'm just going to play it straight through. I see that, and it was 14 years ago that it aired. I see 2 hours, but we might have had 2 guests that night, or I might have played music, because I think we only interviewed him for an hour. So, all right, are you ready, Shannon?
I'm ready.
I'm just gonna say our goodbyes now. After it's done playing, I'll just go into the credits. Oops.
Oh,
I want
okay.
to say, or we can come back if you want to after it's done playing. It's up to you. What do you think?
It sounds like it's going to be pretty long. And look, Laura Lynn just gave us $5 and something of
Yeah, she had
something.
already given us for $5. I wanted to give a quick shout out before we left and thank her for doing that. And ask everyone to please make sure you give this live a thumbs up. Don't click it twice, because if you
Yeah.
give me 2 thumbs up, then you negate the thumbs up. Then I lose the thumbs up. Just click
Oh
it one
no.
time. Yeah, just click it once, and make sure you're subscribed. And yeah, what do you think? We'll just wrap it up. Like, your thoughts on, do you think
Yeah,
DeeDee is going to come back this fast into Gypsy Rose's baby? Bambino? Baboose?
I don't think so. No. No. Because to me it would feel like the only reason she would come back is to get revenge, and I don't think they're allowed to do that.
Yeah. I think it would only have to be like if they made this crazy agreement that you're going to unalive me and I'm going to come back as your baby. But I think that the baby she is creating is going to be what either settles her down finally or is her downfall. One of the two. I mean, really, it could only be one of the two, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of covered
Yeah.
them both.
Yeah. Thanks for the choices, Amy.
Bet on both horses. I call myself the guessing psychic. I'm 50-50.
But yeah,
You see?
we can say that we're gonna head out and just go ahead and fade, go right
Yeah,
into
I'll
the
play
ending.
the closing credits afterwards. I want to just give everyone a thank you. And yeah, this is the Wayback Machine. This is how we used to do the podcast. It was podcast only. This was before you could do all of this stuff. It was just strictly on our phones. So Don't
Yeah.
do anything about the sound. The sound could be absolutely horrible. These were phone interviews, and it
I wonder
was
if there.
like
I wonder if this
didn't
episode has Paraworld News on it.
I don't know. I actually I like to keep things I like to be interested and keep things fresh. So when I gather these things, I only like look at a little bit of it and then say like, yes, this is what, and then I line it up and I like how the story unfolds myself because I never know what's going to happen, and I guess that's my form of excitement these days.
Yeah,
I've
that
always
is the.
liked to live on the edge. Yeah. It's kind of like live theater, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, play it. Hit it,
Okay.
Sam. Play it, Sam.
I'm John Morgan, and I'm asking you to stand with me on as criminals is mad video.
No silly girl talk about makeup or clothes. No, these dark darlings talk about the bizarre, the strange, and the supernatural with other extraordinary women in the paranormal. Join our chat moderated by Shannon Overland. And now, here they are, Amy Williamson and Beverly Van Pelt, the Gothic Gourmet.
Good evening. I'm going to try not to talk like Julia Childs tonight. Welcome to Parawomen's Scream Radio. I'm Amy, and Beverly's with us. And tonight we have a pretty cool show. We have Kennith Gould on, who's going to be talking about reincarnation. He wrote a book called Time and Time Again, My Family and Reincarnation. He's coming with us live from England. I think it's midnight there. So we appreciate him staying up and coming on and chatting with us. And of course, we have Shannon Overland with the Paraworld News. Hello, Beverly.
Hi, Amy. How the heck are ya?
I'm fantastic. You know what's happening this week?
What?
Tomorrow.
What?
The movie Fame is coming out tomorrow. I've got chills and tingles.
Oh. What about the
Better
movie
be good.
you're in?
The
What
movie
about-
I'm in. Oh, that
Drew
movie.
Barrymore movie came out, didn't it?
Nope, that comes out, I think, October 2nd or 3rd.
Oh, next week. So for our audience, if you don't already know, our fabulous Amy Williamson had a part in the movie dressed as an 80s punk, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think it was supposed to be like 80s, but it was a punk rocker.
A punk rocker.
Punk rocker, yeah, because it's a roller derby movie.
Exactly. And so I'm so excited. I watched the trailer and I keep looking, but it passes by too fast and I just can't see you. But I'm sure that during the movie, when somebody's standing there talking or whatever, we're going to get a shot of you. I just know.
Yeah, wouldn't that be wild? Like you'd be like just sitting in the movie theater and then you're like, oh, there's Amy.
That's Amy Williamson of Family and Radio.
That's Amy pantomiming.
No, I'm going to be saying it in Love Theater.
All right.
I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited.
Everyone will probably be like, I know who that is. I've heard that radio show.
You would be surprised. I did an interview with a rock and roll group. They're called Touch Too Much. It's a tribute band to the famous Bon Scott of ACD. Very happy about that.
I love that.
And thank you very much for having me on your show, giving me this opportunity of talking. you and your listeners about my book.
And he's from England, and his name is Kenneth. Yeah, it's rad. Kenneth Gould. Kenneth Gould has spent most of his working life in the service industry in London before embarking on a second career as a portrait painter and landscape artist, and as a creator of decorative furniture both in England and in Spain. His experiences with the paranormal world were gained unexpectedly, however, and he has spent the last few years of his life researching and writing about these. Ken will be joining us tonight to chat about his latest venture, a book entitled Time and Time Again, My Family and Reincarnation. Kenneth's inspiration for the book began in 1979 when he found himself drawn, perhaps to the first time in his life, to his father's mother, Granny Alice, about whom he knew so little about, save for the fact that she died in an asylum. Granny Alice was seen, yes, and heard in a churchyard. A few years later, she began to communicate, firstly through a reluctant psychic, and then continually through a well-known medium. Time and Time Again, My Family and Reincarnation is a true story that proves beyond a doubt that the existence of spirits, and this is a completely true story, a chronicle of chain of incredible and fascinating events which have taken place in the author's life. These are not ordinary events, but encounters with the next world, which can only be deemed as proof of the afterlife. It's a fantastic book, yes. So let's go ahead and bring Kenneth on. Welcome to Paris Cream Radio, Kenneth. I'm Amy, and along with me I have Beverly. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you very much for having me on your show, giving me this opportunity of talking to you and your listeners about my book. Greetings from England.
We're delighted to have you on again.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. So would you like me to begin perhaps how I had started the book?
We would love to hear that.
Well, right at the beginning, I didn't have any preconceived idea about life after death. A lot of people have said to me since, well, surely this is something that has been, you were born with, that you have always thought about this. Some people have even called me a crank. But in actual fact, I had no belief in it at all. I had a hope. I hoped that there might be something, but it was only a hope limited solely to my father. I didn't think of it in general terms, because what happened was in 1954, Dad died. He was 56. I was 25, and I'd always felt very close to him. So what I did was I found myself not only thinking about him pretty much most of the time over the years, but I used to talk out loud to him, and I used to show him things I had made or written, sort of asking for his approval. You know, what do you think of this, Dad? That sort of thing. Sometimes I would invite him when I was in my garden to look at the pond. What do you think of these fish, Dad? Are they like yours? Because he loved his own so much, and I felt he was with me times like that, and on many other occasions. But I actually do know now that he really was with me in the early days after he died, although I didn't know it at the time. I didn't find this out until 1984. That was 30 years afterwards. Can I give you an example?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, well, the main medium upon whom I've relied for information from my family and others over the years, she's quite famous in England. She's a lady named Evelyn Payne. She had so fallen, if that's the right word, for my grandmother and father, that she became able to converse with them even when I wasn't with her. And she would send me the tape recordings, sometimes down to my home in Spain, and she was in London, talking, say, on a Sunday morning with my family, and she would send these recordings of the conversations she had with them. Well, without her knowing that I had just injured my ankle, which was quite coincidental, one of the revelations she came up with on one particular tape was, "Watch that ankle," your father is saying to me. "You, Ken. When you were playing soccer, did you injure your ankles, or perhaps one ankle very badly? Because I've got the feeling that my ankle is blowing up, sprained, maybe broken. But it's you, of course, Ken, not me." This is her words, you see, that I'm actually, I can remember so well because I've seen and heard them over the years while I've been doing my research and writing the book. So I'm saying them because so accurately because as if I were reading them. I'm not, but it's because I know them so well. And she said, I can see you as a very fair-haired young man, boyish, more than a teenager. And he's telling me, this is your father, he's telling me about this injury you had then. Now, what I'd like to tell you are the facts of the matter. 2 years after Dad died, when I was 27, I had my soccer career cut short by a broken ankle.
Oh,
so now
really?
I know that even though I didn't know it at the time, I was only hoping he might hear and see me, know what I'm doing. He had been with me in those early days, just like I'd hoped, because obviously he'd been watching me play soccer, saw me have this broken ankle, and he was watching me just like he used to when he was alive, because he was such a fan of the game, and well, I think he was proud of me. he liked to watch me play soccer.
Oh, that's
so,
brilliant.
It's amazing, isn't it, that he actually was there all those years that I'd been hoping, but I didn't know until 30 years later. And the only reason I did know was because I met this medium.
Wow. And so specific, too. So very specific.
So you mentioned Granualis. Thank you for a wonderful resume you've given of the book. I hope that what I am going to say now isn't too much of a monologue, but I've really got going now because you've praised my book so much. I'd like to explain a few more things about it. May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we would love to hear more about Granny Alice.
Oh, right. Well, I knew that Dad had grown up in Birmingham. That's an industrial city in the middle of England, and in extremely lowly and impoverished factory working conditions. And I knew, as you mentioned earlier, that his mother had died in an asylum. And what Dad said, he said precious little really, but what he did say was that she had died from a broken heart because of the death of a daughter in childbirth. Now, I'm ashamed really that I didn't ask him more. I don't think he wanted to talk much about his family because of the conditions of the poverty that he had lived in when he was young. He left school at 12 to help make ends meet. He should have been proud to remind me because of the way he had elevated himself since. He really should have been as proud of himself as I am. And his achievement, because the life he has helped my brother's family and my family to lead is quite different from anything that he ever knew. And this was really because he was such a wonderful man and was able to do these things and leave that city that really was so poor around him. Well, he didn't talk about the asylum situation much, though, because I suppose he really didn't want to keep reminding me that his mother had died in an asylum. He might have thought, perhaps Ken will think that there's madness in the family. Well, I didn't like to think about her being in a mental hospital, but I didn't think about it as if it was a danger to me. I didn't, maybe I was too self-centered. Anyway, I've tried to make up for it since by writing the book, and I've learned a lot about her since then. All those years that I didn't ask, so I've made up for it.
That's brilliant.
So you've gotten to know her quite well, and
yes.
What made you decide that you were going to write about all that you have learned about her?
Well, it somehow came to me. It was 1979, and I was 50. I think I was more or less exactly 50. It was almost like a birthday thing. Well, I should have been doing some work I'd taken home from the office. But instead, I sat in my study and I began to think about Dad, first of all. I often did, as I mentioned. and I spent hours in the dark. And I remembered an incident when I was 7. We'd been staying with my uncle in his small house in Birmingham. We didn't live there, we lived in the south. Dad didn't want to return back to that city after the First World War. He had been a soldier who was wounded in the First World War. I remember he lifted me up to look out the small front window of this modest little house over towards the nearby church. And I remember his words. He said, "The family are all over there." Well, at the time, I was only 7, but at the time, I thought, is he asking me to do something? Because he obviously meant the family were in the graveyard. But I learned later that he and his brother would have liked to have found out more about family history, but they hadn't known where to begin. It wasn't as popular then as it is now, and people really didn't know how to start. So that evening in my study, I thought it would be a good idea for me to try to do it for him. Well, the evening wore on, and I felt quite strongly that his mother, my grandmother, approved of my decision, and that she wanted me to think about her, that she was pleased I was thinking about her. And I particularly felt that she wanted me to write about her. Well, I knew that she wanted also to put something right for her. There's the writing for her and put something right for her. And that persisted all that evening. And a few days later, I began to do this simple fact finding, you know, with the first researches into the family history. And the first thing that emerged was that, unknown to me, my father's maternal family side had come from Ireland. And the more I found and the more I wrote, the more I realized that although it was interesting for me to be in books on my own shelves, there was lots of social as well as family history, but I realized I hadn't put something right for her, and I knew that she really did want me to. Somehow I had this strong feeling. I even thought she wants me to be her pen and her savior. Those words came into my head and persisted, and I sat there in the dark, and I really felt that she had put the words into my head herself. I can't think how else they.
Hey guys, I'm having a little bit of issues. I'm going to get it back up on stage for us. Just bear with me. I'm sorry. I saw my laptop flicker and I knew I need a new laptop really bad. Okay, let me see if I can get it. Make sure you're seeing it. Get it to where it was.
I'm John Morgan, and I'm at.
In 1954, ends meet. He should have been proud to remind me because of the way he had elevated himself since. He really should have been as proud of himself as I am. and his achievement, because the life he has helped my brother's family and my family to lead is quite different from anything that he ever knew. And this was really because he was such a wonderful man and was able to do these things and leave that that city that really was so poor around him. Well, he didn't talk about the asylum situation much, though, because I suppose he really didn't want to keep reminding me that his mother had died in an asylum. He might have thought, perhaps Ken will think that there's madness in the family. Well, I didn't like to think about her being in a mental hospital, but I didn't think about it as if it was a danger to me. I didn't, maybe I was too self-centered. Anyway, I've tried to make up for it since by writing the book, and I've learned a lot about her since then. All those years that I didn't ask, so I've made up for it.
That's brilliant.
So you've gotten to know her quite well, and
yes.
What made you decide that you were going to write about all that you have learned about her?
Well, it somehow came to me. It was 1979, and I was 50. I think I was more or less exactly 50. It was almost like a birthday thing. Well, I should have been doing some work I'd taken home from the office, but instead I sat in my study and I began to think about Dad, first of all. I often did, as I mentioned, and I spent hours in the dark. And I remembered an incident when I was 7. We'd been staying with my uncle in his small house in Birmingham. We didn't live there, we lived in the south. Dad didn't want to return back to that city after the First World War. He had been a soldier who was wounded in the First World War. I remember he lifted me up to look out the small front window of this modest little house over towards the nearby church. And I remember his words. He said, "The family are all over there." Well, at the time, I was only 7, but at the time, I thought, is he asking me to do something? Because he obviously meant the family were in the graveyard. But I learned later that he and his brother would have liked to have found out more about family history, but they hadn't known where to begin. It wasn't as popular then as it is now, and people really didn't know how to start. So that evening in my study, I thought it would be a good idea for me to try to do it for him. Well, the evening wore on, and I felt quite strongly that his mother, my grandmother, approved of my decision, and that she wanted me to think about her, that she was pleased I was thinking about her. And I particularly felt that she wanted me to write about her. Well, I knew that she wanted also to put something right for her. There's the writing for her and put something right for her. And that persisted all that evening. And a few days later, I began to do this simple fact finding, with the first researches into the family history. And the first thing that emerged was that, unknown to me, my father's maternal family side had come from Ireland. And the more I found and the more I wrote, the more I realized that although it was interesting for me to be in books on my own shelves, there were lots of social as well as family history, but I realized I hadn't put something right for her. And I knew that she really did want me to. Somehow I had this strong feeling. I even thought she wants me to be her pen and her savior. Those words came into my head and persisted. And I sat there in the dark, and I really felt that she had put the words into my head herself. I can't think how else they came.
Well, we're not going to tell the audience exactly what it is that she wanted Ken to put right, but it is something exciting, and that is why the time and time again, My Family Reincarnation, you must pick up, because it's a mystery in itself. And So Granny Alice came to you in spirit form, and how did that come about?
Well, she was, this is very strange, isn't it? Because she was seen and heard as a ghost. Now, how do I know that it was she who was described to me in this way? Well, this is how it panned out. The family history side of things led me to 3 cousins. They were the 3 sons of an estranged older brother of my father's. Once I'd found them on paper, I went to see them in Birmingham, where they lived. They didn't even know that they had the uncle, my uncle, who was my beloved uncle, with whom my father had remained in constant touch. They didn't even know that he existed in their same city, and but I did know that my dad and that beloved uncle of mine, they had together, as a unit, shall we say, quarreled, obviously together, forever, I mean, with their other brother, because they didn't want to return to that city after the First World War. And the reason was, and I don't know why that brother would have sided with the father, their father, but they didn't want to return, my beloved uncle and my dad, to the same house that their father was living in with another woman, while their mum, my Granny Alice, was in an asylum. I mean, you can understand why they didn't want to. Why the father of the 3 cousins wanted to, I don't know. But anyway, that's nothing to do with them. I wanted to go and meet them, and they didn't know anything at all about the past history. When their dad had died, they were, 5, 3, and a babe in arms, something like that. But they were interested in what I was telling them about the family history I'd found, and I mentioned the graveyard of the large church that Dad had pointed to. And one of the cousins, after listening to me, said, "I can tell you a ghost story about that place. My daughter had a boyfriend a few years ago, and he saw and heard the ghost of a little old lady calling out, 'Annie, are you there, Annie?' Well, Annie was the name of my grandmother's daughter, whose death may or may not have been the cause of Granny Alice being put away. You may remember that Dad had told me that his mother had been put in an asylum from a broken heart because of the death of her daughter in childbirth. Well, obviously I began to take notice. I thought, well, there's something here, isn't there, Annie? But of course, it's a common name. I knew that they'd been, through my family history research, buried in the same grave, and I began to get very strange messages because this witness, I wanted to know who he was. How could he have heard somebody calling out, "Annie, are you there, Annie?" And it's a ghost. So I said, "I'd like to meet this man." So my cousin said, "I'm sorry, you're out of luck." His daughter saw him again recently. He told her the same story and said he was going abroad. But he said, "Now, do remember, and it's very important, do remember that I have told you this again about this ghost, this lady calling out." So I said, well, I really would have liked to have had a chat with him because I know so much more about family history than you do. And my cousin said, well, I do remember his name. It was Carson, Paul Carson. Well, you may not know this, for you don't know it yet, but I'm going to tell you. Carson, I shouted. That was Annie's marriage name. Well, nothing else was forthcoming, so I left as quickly as I could. I wanted to get into the train on my way home from Birmingham to London. I was going to meet my wife, but I wanted to be in the train and write my notes because it wasn't a tape-recorded conversation we had had, and I wanted to make sure that I'd got them down accurately. But I was filled with the thought that the ghost that was seen and heard and my grandmother were one and the same. I just couldn't get it out of my mind.
Yeah. That seems so true, doesn't it?
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
I just all the journey down to London, I was thinking, well, it has to be. It just has to be my grandmother. And this man, Paul Carson, and my grandmother are telling me something about her, and I couldn't get it out of my head.
Yeah, that would be something that would stick in your head, and you would have to research it and figure that out. And so she had appeared as and then she started appearing as a communicator, didn't she?
Yes. Now, a lot of people might find that quite odd. I can't completely explain how she then became a communicator, whether or not it's because she knew that even though she had been seen and heard as a ghost, somehow she knew that I was interested in her, that I wanted to write about her, and that I had begun to get this feeling that I had to be her pen and her savior. Well, I got down to London. I met my wife as arranged. We were having dinner in a restaurant. With us was a personal friend of ours, my wife's head of department at the college. They had been in a meeting all afternoon, and together they came over to join me. And so I had this man, Clive Kirby, with me as well. Well, I didn't mind because he was a friend as well as my wife Anne's head of department. We knew he was psychic, and he was often troubled by this ability, so we never embarrassed him. We never discussed such matters. He'd seen an aircraft crash in the Far East one night and woke up, and it actually had happened at the time, bearing in mind time zone difference. It had happened at exactly the moment that he woke up knowing about it. Well, he'd seen all sorts of other things as well that with which he was comfortable, but because sometimes he wasn't, we never discussed it. Now, he knew I wanted to talk to my wife about my cousins, so if you can imagine at a table, the three of us, with him withdrawing mentally, but still sitting there. So he stayed with us at the table, and I was talking to my wife. And I didn't mention the name of my grandmother, but I said to Anne, I've just heard a ghost story from one of my cousins, and I've got the weirdest feeling it was my grandmother calling out to her long-lost daughter. Well, I looked up from my plate, as it were, you know, when you're at a table dining. I looked up to my wife's face and had to follow her gaze to Clive because my wife was looking so very worried. Clive's face, he usually was had a florid face, you know, rather red in the cheeks. He was white, or grey really, and he was sweating. And he held up his hand and he said, "Stop, your grandmother's name was Alice, wasn't it?" Well, I'd made it sound like a question, but he didn't ask, he knew. And he went on to state her husband's name, George. That was my grandfather's name, George. And he said, "I can see tin, green glass, and straps." Well, I was absolutely flabbergasted. I more than just amazed, but I managed to confirm to him the names. I said to him, "Well, Clive, you've got their names, Alice and George, and I think you're right about tin, because my grandfather worked with metals. He was a factory smith at a forge in a factory working with metal." And I said, "But I don't know anything about green glass and straps." And Clive suddenly said, "Oh, there's more. Is there a Bess, Bessie, Gus, or Gussie around in your family? Your grandmother is really angry about this woman." Well, then, as soon as he said your grandmother, I knew that the ghost, that all I had said to Anne was, somebody has seen a ghost. I think it might be my grandmother. And here was Clive telling me about this woman, Bess, or Gus, Bessie, Gussie. and she's really angry about this woman, and she wants you to do something for her. She wants you to put something right for her. She wants you to be her pen and her savior. And
Wow.
I didn't know where I was. Well, I decided that grandmother wanted me to go and visit the asylum. It's still a mental hospital. And when I was there, I immediately found, they allowed me to walk around, and I immediately found a great deal of green glass in all the tall glazed partitions, and the dining room had a lot of green glass in it. So I reckon that my grandmother had herself obviously sent me to that place, the start of my journey, to put something right for her. I didn't like to think about the straps. That was the other thing that Clive had said, so I didn't ask. I had a feeling about it. After all, it's an asylum. Well, I still didn't know who Bessie Gussie was, but I realized that as this, well, it was one woman, not two. It sounds like two women, but Clive had said my grandmother was really angry with this woman. So I thought, Bessie Gussie, now that's Elizabeth Augusta, E.A. Where have I seen E.A.? Well, Anne, my wife, thinks she pays me a compliment. She thinks I've got something of a photographic memory. Perhaps I have, because I suddenly remembered on my grandfather's death certificate that I had last seen years before, the name of the informant had been E.A. Lavender. Well, I now needed to track down the E.A., and I did this again through a family history style research, and I tracked her, and I found out that the woman my grandfather was living with was Elizabeth Augusta. So that was the woman that my grandmother was really angry about.
Oh.
Well, I applied to the authorities in Birmingham. I wanted to know the written details of the admission of my grandmother to the asylum. It was in 1917, and I wondered if there was anything written about her. And they did write me a full list of, it was a letter, but it was also a copy of the details that had been written in 1917. And two of those details were that bruises were seen on her arms and body. Well, I should point out that my little grandmother, and I can honestly say she was a little grandmother, she was only 4 feet 11 inches mentioned in these details, because they mentioned all sorts of things: color of eyes, color of hair, height, all that sort of thing. And they also said that with the husband, when she was delivered to that place, was a female friend who gave much of the information about my grandmother's supposed madness. She really put it on, losing her way in the streets. She thought her husband was bad to her. Well, he was bad to her. I mean, there were bruises all over her arms and body, but nobody had taken him to task about it. Well, so that woman was obviously the Bessie Gussie, and that she was with my grandmother, putting my grandmother away in what really was like a prison. Then I didn't ask anybody. I mentioned I didn't ask about the straps. I was a bit worried about that. But in the letter with the details, they voiced an opinion, and it was that she would have been strapped down, as they said. These were her words. She would have been strapped down by her wrists and ankles in a wheelchair, as she had been so argumentative. So now I had the reason for everything that Clive Kirby had told me. Got absolutely everything. And as far as being argumentative, well, I think any of us, if we weren't mad and we thought that a husband and a nasty friend, somebody who had been her friend but is no longer, if people like that were putting me away in an asylum, I think I'd be a bit argumentative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Clive, of course, was only an amateur medium. He was reluctant and a reticent psychic, but later on, of course, I needed to go and see professional mediums. I wanted to find out a bit more.
So you went ahead and you did go visit professionals.
Well, that's right, because it was strange how I did go and see them, really, because in the same way that I think that this Paul Carson was a messenger, there was another messenger. What happened was that in 1989, 4 years after my Granny Alice had made herself known to Clive, and after the receipt of the confirmation of all those sad details, my wife and I had by then had moved to Spain, but she had to fulfill some last minute part-time duties at the college. They didn't want to let her go, really, and so she was doing part-time, and I was waiting for her to retire fully, and I was in Spain. Now, she had nothing to do with hiring and firing of staff. That wasn't her job at all. And someone needing a job was wrongly sent to her and said to her, look, I'm not the right person to see. You should go to such and such an office. But this girl stayed with her, and they obviously were getting on very well, and suddenly said that a certain book would be of benefit to me in his present state of health, she said to my wife. They were her words. My wife absolutely is absolutely sure of the exact words. Read this book. It would be of benefit to your husband in his present state of health. Well, I hadn't entered into the conversation before. There was no way this girl could have known that what had happened was that I'd had a sort of nervous breakdown at work. That's why I'd retired early, and that's why we'd gone abroad to get away from London. Well, just around the corner from where my wife worked, and she was due to come back to Spain in a couple of days, is a very large bookshop. And so she bought the book, and she brought it down with her to Spain. And in the back cover, there was mention of the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain. And while we were looking at that, Anne suggested that I should go there on my next visit to England. And I said, why, you don't think I'm still in need of healing, do you? Is that what, because this book was a lot about the healing powers of mediums. I said, surely I'm better now. And she said, no, I don't think I don't mean that. Go and see a medium, a professional, and to carry on what Clive had started. And so that's how I really went back to London to find real mediums.
So when you say real mediums, do you mean?
Well, Clive, you see, was an amateur, a psychic, and reticent and reluctant. And I thought, and Anne thought for me, that if I went to this particular place, the association, I would meet somebody who wasn't
was more professional.
Yes, that's right, a professional psychic. Yes, that's right.
And
so shall I go on with about that?
Yes.
Would you like me to?
Yes.
Well, I took her advice. I flew back to England specially, and I made an appointment to see one medium. I didn't know the name, but I was put down in the book to see a certain medium at these headquarters the very next day. Well, the receptionist said, if you might be interested this evening, there's a demonstration, a bit of a show in our main room that you might like to see. So my appointment was for the next day, but I had nothing to do that evening. So I went to this demonstration, and it was called, the lady who ran it called it psychometry. I believe that is, I've looked the name up since, and it is a name that is defined as being the ability to fashion ideas or from the holding of certain objects. Well, it was only an experiment, but this lady was the Evelyn Payne that we've mentioned earlier. Now, she was able to tell people that evening, people in the audience, things about themselves and their relations in great detail, simply by handling an object given to her, like a wallet or a watch or a ring. It sounds like one of those theatrical things that are often just a show, but this was a genuine medium. And it was so impressive that I immediately changed my appointment for the next day with one medium so as to see this particular lady, Evelyn Payne. I had to wait a few more days, but it was really worth it. But this is what I'm going to mention next is so important in relation to what Evelyn Payne said to me the very first, in more or less the very first sentence a few days later. On the day that I was due to leave my house to go and see her, I climbed up into my roof. It's a space that I'd made into a study and hobby room. And I looked at all the books that I had amassed over the years with my writing for family history. And next to them, there was a large brown envelope, very large, a packet filled with papers, certificates, and the letter that I'd received from the mental hospital about grandmother's admission to the asylum in 1917. Well, I told myself off, I really chastised myself that I hadn't attended to the papers before, because they really needed to be written about and put into another volume. And I promised myself I'd take them back to Spain to deal with them immediately. Well, then I went up to London and went in to see Evelyn Payne. I'd made, that's right, when I made my appointment, I gave a false name because I didn't want my own name might indicate something about me. I couldn't think what. Gould isn't a name that one would say, oh, that's from Scotland, or that's from Wales, or that's from Arkansas, or whatever. So I was determined that I'd give nothing away. So I was telling a few white lies, really, and I decided that I'd only listen to whatever was said. I wouldn't say anything. Well, the session was tape recorded, so I do know I succeeded. I gave no information at all. Well, Evelyn immediately took my hand and she fingered a signet ring on my little finger, and she sort of stroked it for a little while, and then she said, "This is interesting, but it has nothing to do with your family." Well, that was a marvelous start, because the ring has got a family crest on it, you know, one of those signet rings that indicate a family
ring,
crest. But it wasn't my family. I'd bought the ring because I liked it. And then she said, "Your family came from Ireland." Well, now, I realized that things were getting better all the time, because I don't sound Irish. And if there's a typical Irish look, I don't look Irish either. But if you may remember that I'd found out initially when I first started the family history that my grandmother's family had earlier come over to England from Ireland. So I was determined to be a bit devious. So I replied with something. It was partly true, because centuries ago, when I have also done my mother's family history, so I've gone back many centuries with that, and I found that a member of her family had gone to Ireland and stayed there. So I said that. I said, "Oh yes, Ireland. That's right. It's somebody in my mother's family went there." And she said, "No, this is not your mother's family. It's your father's." And she went on to describe a lady in Victorian dress, and she told me it was my father's mother. And then she said, she wants you to write a book about her. Well, I gulped. Well, I replied as best I could, but I was, flabbergasted again, like I was with Clive. And I said, but I have written books about her, referring to my family history books. And she said, yes, but your work for her isn't finished, she is saying. She is showing me a large brown envelope, and she's telling me that the third piece of paper in it is what you need to get started again. You have to return to her city, and now that you've retired early, you have the time. She wants you to be her pen and her savior. Those words again. Well, I was absolutely amazed.
Now, right?
I was absolutely amazed. I mean, they're the words that came into my head years before when I was in my study on my own. They're the words that Clive said my grandmother had used, and now she's using them again. And she was even stating that her family came from a city. Well, I didn't say that they were from a city. I mean, for instance, they could have come from a small town. They could have come from a country village. And not only that, she said, return to her city, not my city, but her city. And she also said that I'd retired early, and I had, because of my, I needed to retire early from the business that was really had made me ill. Anyway, more was to come, because you remember I just said that she'd mentioned that the piece of paper that would get me started again was the third piece of paper down in a big packet. When I got home, I immediately went back up into the roof, opened the packet of papers, all the certificates and letters and notes that I'd made over the last few months. And the third piece of paper, not the second or the 22nd of many in a very thick, inch-thick leaf, was the letter from the mental hospital, which had told me for sure that although she may have suffered from a bad memory, because they did say that she'd lost her way in the streets, she wasn't mad, and that she had been physically abused by her husband, as I mentioned, the bruises and so on. And that was the letter. And this is the letter that Granny Alice was now saying to me I would need to get me started again. And so she was determined that I would keep writing about her.
That's just stunning. It's the serendipity is just so stunning.
Yes,
and
well,
so
yes, well, sorry, I didn't hear if you'd said something. The line is all right, and I can hear. Can you hear me quite clearly?
Yes, I hear
Amy?
you quite clearly, but there was a delay, and I heard an echo, so I stopped speaking. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, I think it was my fault. I didn't know whether I had been talking too long and whether or not I should go on. Shall I carry on?
Yes,
please do.
Oh, right. Well, from then, in 1989, right up to the present day, the book ends with a climax in 2002, by the way. But if I were to go and see a medium at the association tomorrow, I would hear from all sorts of family members what I have done in the past, what I'm doing now, what my wife and I have been discussing, and even what I'm thinking. Now, if there's time, I'd like to give you an example of this, perhaps a bit later, because I think it's the most, to me, it's still amazing that my father particularly actually knows what I'm thinking. I'll tell you about that a bit later on. But Evelyn Payne was so impressed by my grandmother's insistence that my help was needed that she insisted that I visited her a few days later. She said to me, there's a lot more to come from this, Ken. I've really grown to know, like, and understand this grandmother of yours. She's got a lot more to say. I rent a house while I'm doing my work in London on a please come and see me in a few days' time. And we arranged an evening to do it on a private, unpaid basis. Bring a 90-minute cassette tape. It's going to be a long session, she said. Well, it was.
Oh.
Granny Alice described the asylum in detail. She described her daughter's death in childbirth. I remember the words. She said, and the babe spilled out of her. So one of the reasons she may have gone a little funny in the head had been presumably because she was at her daughter's bedside when the dead baby was trying to be born. And also in this 90 minutes, she described how her husband had beaten her and how she was put away unjustly. She was going on about that woman again. And she said, he was determined to be rid of me, she said. Well, the whole evening, well, it was harrowing. It was an uninterrupted monologue, and I felt drained. Evelyn Payne looked drained. All I had done was listen, and I felt absolutely weak and emotional. I almost cried to think that my little grandmother had been in that asylum, and she shouldn't have been. She had gone through so much, and her husband had beaten her and put her away, and I was, really upset. The number of sessions, and particularly the number of tapes prepared by proxy, they're the ones that Evelyn would make with my family when I wasn't there, and they grew, especially as we moved back to England. Now, I just mentioned that they know my thoughts. I'd like to give you an example. Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Well, I'd been on one of my visits to England when we still had the house in Spain, and I was traveling to London to see a medical specialist. Well, that's not the point, but it just happens to be why I was in London, but I won't go into the details. But I just missed a train, and I could see it disappearing in the distance. I had another 10 or 15 minutes to wait, and I remember how alone I was on the station platform. I could see that there was repainting and other renovating work being carried out, because workmen who must have gone off somewhere for a tea break, because nobody was about, but they had left their buckets and ladders, paint pots and so on, awaiting their return. And every few yards, as I wandered the length of the platform, I could see a small section of wall that in the old days, the Victorian days, would have had advertising posters on. In the old days when there were steam trains, it would have said, this is in the 19th century, it would have said things like, oh, come to sunny Blackpool, that Blackpool being a seaside resort, travel to so-and-so and see the amazing sights there. Big adverts. Well, all these adverts had been taken off because these men were renovating the whole platform. Well, somebody had written in something like, what do you call it, Egyptian hieroglyphics, or perhaps even looking like Chinese lettering, on each one. And I looked at each one. They were about, 15 yards apart, and they were about 10 or more. I walked the whole length of the platform, and I looked at each one, and these were my thoughts. I don't like graffiti, but if we have to have it, then I wish it could all be as good as this. This is really good art. Now, I didn't say anything to anybody. I didn't about it. I didn't even tell my wife, who was in Spain. I was in London at this time. Nobody knew, and I didn't even say it out loud. In the old days, I used to talk out loud to my dad, but this was just a thought. Well, I returned to Spain with a tape recording that Evelyn had made without my being with her, and she had sent it to me, and it arrived just before I left. I was due to leave England for Spain. I hadn't had time to listen to it. I got back down to Spain, and Anne and I together put it on, and amongst dozens more astounding revelations on this tape, it was again her usual 60-minute tape, and it was full of stuff.
Cram full.
She said suddenly, "Oh boy, somebody's up to date. Glorified graffiti. I've just heard those 2 words thrown at me. It's your father,
Wow.
Ken, and he knows you've been somewhere where you've seen some graffiti that you considered good art, and I know he's picked up on your thoughts."
The exact words that he
The
used.
exact words. He actually saw me walk on that platform looking at those panels with the graffiti on, and he knew what I was thinking.
Oh,
This is how strong my dad and my Granny Alice are in my with their power to know what I'm doing and thinking. Amazing,
it's
isn't it?
astounding. It gave me goosebumps. It really, really did.
Yeah.
Oh. So this really took place over years with Evelyn Payne, right, and other mediums.
Yes, that's right. Many years. Many years.
And then it all developed. And now, what do you think happens after we die?
Well, I'm not a theologian. I don't know too much about the Bible. I've not studied what other people say about this, but obviously all this experience has made me think things. So I've developed theories and reasons. I've tried to explain it to myself, let alone to my readers. I think it will probably take far too long to explain everything now. But in short, what I've come to a realization that maybe the brain and the mind are not one and the same. Now, we all know what a brain does for us. I mean, a brain is it's an organ, and it's tangible. It's matter. So when we die, the brain dies with us. It's part of us, and it's either buried with the rest of our body and the other organs, or it's turned to ashes if we're cremated. But then I started to consider. Let's consider dreams for the moment. For most of us, perhaps all of us, have dreams at night, and some of us often have waking thoughts by day that don't seem to come from the brain. I know I do. Flashes of something completely unconnected with anything else that's going on at the moment just come into my thoughts and just as suddenly leave. Now, our dreams and those unexplained thoughts are not controlled by us. Our dreams aren't, are they? So, and I don't think those unexplained thoughts during the day are. So how do they come? Well, you probably have gathered that because of all my research that I rather like books that tell me something, dictionaries and books that I don't actually read other people's novels, but I do like to find facts out. So I've looked up in the dictionaries that the brain is definitely defined as matter. It's tangible. But the mind is defined as immaterial, without mass, and it's the soul as distinct from the body. Now, I looked up soul, and the soul is defined in exactly the same way as the mind is. It's not matter. It's not. It is immaterial, and it's spiritual. So spiritual led me on to the spirit, which I looked up, and it's defined in exactly the same way. So the mind, the soul, and the spirit would seem to be one and the same, an intangible thing that has no substance.
As opposed to the organ that is the brain.
The organ of the brain, which has substance. And we know that the mind can roam free when we're alive because our dreams tell us that. I mean, the dreams are the roaming of our mind. And I know now that it can roam free from us when we're dead. I know that from what I've been telling you about Granny Alice and my dad in constant contact with me. Now, you asked what happens after we die. Well, I know now that their spirit is seen and heard by mediums that are blessed with a talent or a gift for clairvoyance. What I've been told by them is that whereas they have clairvoyance and they have clairaudience, they can see and hear these spirits, I can't, they know that, but they've told me that I am clairsentient. I can feel so well that they find it easy to bring these people to me. And this is why Evelyn explains that I'm the only person in her 30 years experience for whom she's been able to contact relations, my dad and my Granny Alice, without my being with her. And she can only do that because of me, even though I'm not with her. And Clive Kirby,
you're the facilitator. It's like
sorry?
You're the facilitator that allows her to communicate.
That's right. It's like, I suppose it's like a radio in a way. Some people are broadcasting and some people are listening. And what she told me was that we've all got clients to varying degrees, but most of us have lost the knack. The reason I've been so fortunate to have Dad, Granny Alice, and many others, by the way, they're not the only ones, come to me, is because these clairvoyant people have still got the knack. But she says that we all have, or we used to have, but we've lost it because of the complicated lives we all lead. And then she went on to tell me that many children still have it. They don't realize it, but they have it. And when she told me that, I remembered that I've known children who have imaginary friends. I don't know if you've heard of that, or if you know anybody, any children who
thing here. Yes.
They sort of they're sitting at the table and they say to Mum and Dad, lay a table for Jimmy. Oh, who's Jimmy? Well, Jimmy, he's sitting there. Can't you see him? And many kids have this, don't they? Well, what Evelyn Payne is saying, that these kids may not be seeing, may be seeing something. They're not imaginary friends. They may be seeing a spirit that is hanging around them. And then as they grow up, not the spirit, the kids, when they grow up into adolescence and adulthood, they become like us, and we're so busy with our lives that we've lost the knack. But anyway, I think that's another subject, isn't it? It's not in my book, and I think that's another subject.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I mentioned reincarnation at the end. Yeah. I'm sorry if this has been a complete monologue and you haven't had a chance to say anything. Is that all right? Can I continue?
This is what we love. Yes, this is what we love to have a guest do, because you have the story.
Yeah, but I've just looked at my clock and I see that I've been talking to you for an hour. Well, anyway, I better mention reincarnation because you were kind enough to spell out the whole title of the book. And listeners might think, well, reincarnation, his grandmother was a ghost. We understand that she communicates with him, but what's reincarnation got to do with it? Well, I think I can justify my claim, but I'm not going to give you any names because otherwise I'd be giving away the end of the book.
And we don't want that. We want people to buy the book.
Well, but that's kind of you. So I won't unequivocally state that I have proved it to everyone's satisfaction. In the book's introduction, I wrote that I show almost to the point of irrefutability that reincarnation exists, and that was because I myself feel absolutely certain that I've proved it. Now, right at the end, the last few pages, I have a conversation with somebody, and that is my proof. But if I were to divulge here and now the connection that that one person has with somebody else at an early stage in the book, there's a connection between these two, you see. But if I mention who they are, I'd be giving my ending away. But incidentally, when I say my ending, I'm not Agatha Christie writing a work of fiction. It is absolute fact. But as what one book reviewer, it's a well-known author, I've forgotten her name for the moment, in South Carolina, she was kind enough to write one of many reviews for me, unknown to me. I mean, I think my publisher must have sent her the book, and she wrote a very kind review. But she has written to, these are her words, I've got them written down here, to avoid a spoiler alert. Now, I've never heard of that phrase before. Maybe it's something that, you know what spoiler alert is?
Yes, it's when you give away the plot or you give away the surprise ending or whatever. It started off as something for television shows, and now it's throughout, especially American culture. It's throughout American culture.
I thought it must be, but we don't use it ourselves over here. And she's put, to avoid a spoiler alert, I'll refrain from telling my readers of the unexpected turn of events that reveals which of Kenneth Gould's family members is the one who is actually another one reborn. So if you don't mind, that's all I can possibly say to you about reincarnation, because as we've all agreed, I don't want to give away the ending.
Yes, no, that's the perfect way to end our interview. Oh my gosh. Now, how can people contact you?
Well, I don't have a website, but if anybody wants to buy the book, I have been in contact in the last few days with my publisher, because to tell them what dates I have, and they're going to set up in a few days' time a connection between Amazon UK and Amazon in the States, which is just Amazon.com. Now, but the other way is through the publisher team itself, which I think you have the book in front of you, don't you? The name of the publishers is healingsofAtlantis.com, and if one applied to that particular email address or to Amazon.com in a few days' time, when the tie-up, when the link-up is arranged, you should be able to get the book in the States.
Brilliant.
People are buying it in England through bookshops and through applying to Amazon and through to my publishers. But of course, it's not in the bookshops in the States, but you can get it through those two websites.
Oh, great.
And also, if you go ahead and Google Kenneth Gould or time and time again, My Family and Reincarnation, all of those sites pop up. Yeah.
If you bring up Amazon on Google, I think you'll find it is in England. This is so anyway. You'll find quite a good review of it. But even if you don't find it on your screen, if your listeners would bear in mind that there are those two email addresses, healingsofatlantis.com or Amazon.com, in maybe a week's time, that latter, because it's not quite, the tie-up is not quite there yet, then they should be able to get it with no problems. I hope that people are interested enough to...
I got nickels in my pocket. Several months, and you've heard the numerous drive and nickels in my pocket. Drive and nickels in my pocket.
Yay.
In my little pocket. I've got a little nickel in my pocket.
You know, those were very cheerful songs. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. Ask and ye shall receive on Parawomen Scream Radio.
Yeah, it is. This is Parawomen Scream Radio with Amy Williamson and Beverly Van Pelt. And momentarily, we're going to have Shannon Overland with Paraworld News.
Oh no, we have her right now. Hello, Shannon Overland. Hello, how are you guys?
Hi, Shannon. How the heck are you?
I am doing great. How are you guys doing? Great.
Yes, of
Great,
course.
great.
Because I just love the Birmingham accent.
I know.
I mean, I'm serious. I didn't know how much I liked it.
I was telling Beverly that I was hoping that he would say something about getting a cup of tea. I wanted to hear him say some generic British phrases, but
exactly,
it was
like
so really cool.
and trumpets or something.
I know. Fish and chips. So much fun. Yeah. Yep. What sort of news you got this year? Or this year? This year. My first news story, I stole off of Jolynn's Facebook site. She posted it on Facebook, and I said, oh, look at that. We love Jolynn, Valerie. She's actually going to be with us on October 29th, I believe. Yay. It's my birthday, and I won't be here.
Oh.
That's okay.
That's right. Oh.
I'll listen to it in archive.
Yes. Everyone should listen to everything in archive. So hit us with the news, Shannon.
Well, you guys have heard my news over the last several months, and you've heard the numerous stories that I've reported on witch hunts.
Yeah.
Well, apparently other people have listened to them as well. Well, not my stories, but the stories that I stole the stories from. UN representatives have finally come forward and announced that the world has a problem with witch hunts. In countries, finally. In countries from South Africa to India, women and children are being persecuted and killed because they are believed to be witches. Children are being turned out into the streets or killed by their own parents who fear their government's retribution against them.
Oh.
I know.
Everyone should pick up a witch and give a witch a hug.
They should. They say there are no reliable statistics, but they know that the number of people being killed is in the tens of thousands. And beatings, deprivation of property, and banishment and isolation from community life meant victims of witch frenzy ran into the millions just over the last several months. Wow.
Millions, really?
Yes, millions. Well, I mean, we're not that surprised because, I mean, the topic, you know, the news that you have brought on has been so horrific against the witches.
Right.
And the albinos and the mermaids.
I think what becomes surprising to me and probably to all of the listeners, well, not all, but many of the listeners, would be that in America, that's not something that we have. You know, like, we don't have millions of people being killed for being witches. But in other countries, they have different cultural upbringings where their experience is so different than ours. And for us in America to hear about these other experiences is very foreign to us.
Yes. Well, and I think a lot of what
you're astounded.
Yes. I think a lot of what's going on is happening in the third world countries. So, you know, we went through it. You know, a couple hundred years ago, and now they're trying to go through it. Yeah.
Right.
So, but it's just crazy. But
you know what? It gives us para-world news then, and so it's something that's interesting at the same time.
Yes, and I'm very happy that the UN and government, you know, our government officials are finally stepping in and saying, hey, this is crazy, stop this. Because, you know, they have, they're putting up places, like asylum places where they could go for, you know, to be protected, and it's, you know.
Sanctuary. They're seeking sanctuary.
Yes.
It's just Logan's Run.
It's awful. It's awful. But it's official. One of the most famous UFO stories in history, the Socorro UFO, is a hoax. Do you girls know anything about the Socorro UFO?
No.
I didn't either, but it's one of the most famous UFO stories in history. Apparently,
what is it? Maybe we do know it. We just don't know it's called Socorro.
Socorro, New Mexico. Maybe Scooby knows about it. It's in New Mexico.
New Mexico. You mean the Phoenix Lights?
No, this was back in 1964. A policeman named Lonnie Zamora was just making his rounds, and he stumbled upon what they said was like a landed UFO. And he saw like little people around it, which he described as like small adults or large children. and it was like the big thing, and they talked about it all over the world, and it was just a huge thing. Well, now we're out from the person who was the college president at that time. It was Socorro is the home of New Mexico Tech, the college, and the president of the college at the time has come forward and confessed that it was not a real UFO, that it was merely an elaborate school prank.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there were apparently bad relations between that particular officer and the students at the college at the time.
No.
So the students decided that they wanted to play a trick on him.
Oh, no.
And that trick apparently went a little too far.
Oh, wait a minute.
No.
My question is, are any students coming forward with this person?
I didn't read anything about students coming forward, but they apparently have found a letter from that time talking about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
What if the letter is the hoax?
Yeah. Well, what the college president said was that they had fashioned a miniature, like a hot air balloon, and it was just a little miniature one.
Hot air balloon. It sounds like a government cover-up
Sounds
to me.
like such a cover-up, you know. And next they're going to say, and it was swamp gas in the middle of the desert.
No, they're going to say it's college kids.
Yeah, those crazy college kids. What won't they do now?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. And it's but now they're calling it debunked. See,
yeah, they say
how interesting they can debunk it 50 years later.
Yeah, and none of the college kids that did it with them are coming forward and saying, you know, because people like the limelight, and none of them are saying, yeah, I took part in that.
Right.
Hey, maybe they're all dead because maybe the government killed all of them.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's it. I know.
Or they all got into the little hot air balloon and went up into the sky.
And then they were abducted by a UFO. Real. I'm serious. Oh my god. That's hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
Another one for us?
All right, my last story. On September 19th, a beautiful, warm, and sunny afternoon in Pennsylvania, a young couple and their child were driving down a road in rural Westmoreland County. Suddenly, the mother yelled, "Watch out for that snake!" Ahead, they saw a black snake in the road, approximately 4 foot long, laboriously moving across the road. They got within 10 feet of the creature, and they saw it burst into several pieces. And they noticed that these pieces were about 4 to 6 inches in length, and they each had 4 feet and were moving like inchworms across the road. Now, the creatures formed...
That's creepy.
Yeah, that is very creepy. They formed a circle and then were joined by another similar creature who came from the side of the road. And the next thing the family knew, the creatures joined together and became a snake again. And it made its way to the side of the road. And it all happened within a matter of 5 to 10 seconds. And apparently it's not the first time this kind of incident has been reported. A similar incident happened back in June, not too far from the same location in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that would be freakish. That would be the kind of thing that would be something that would get me.
What the heck could that be?
Yeah, no one knows.
LSD trip, a bad trip?
No, because they're all seeing it together.
I know. Maybe they all drank the same Kool-Aid. I don't know. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
the weird thing is, this isn't the first story that I've read about weird things going on in Pennsylvania. It seems like every week I find something weird. Yeah. Oh no, there's a lot of weird stuff in Pennsylvania.
I mean,
I think that's
Pennsylvania. I do, but
that's where a sighting of one of the weird, not the Jersey Devil, but the what's that other one? Oh, I can't think of the other one.
Mothman? Werewolf?
Yeah, the Mothman. I think the Mothman is
Mothman.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, I thought that was Ohio. Or
no, I think it's in Pennsylvania too. I think it's one of those. One of those is in Pennsylvania, but I can't remember exactly.
We'll have to investigate. Hey, that's where the college kids are. What the heck are they called again? You know, the ones from the TV show. The ones from Penn State.
Oh yeah, Paranormal State.
Paranormal State. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe I blanked out on Paranormal State, you guys. I'm so sorry. Sorry to the audience. Yeah, that's where those guys are from. Of course, they have a lot of cases going on over there, and don't they follow like up and down the Mississippi too? Some of these other cases are up and down the Mississippi. So you know what? Maybe it starts in Pennsylvania.
It could. I don't know if you guys are reading in the chat room. But in response to your querying about where the students from New Mexico Tech, why aren't they coming forward? William Smith says they all grew up and went to England to make crop circles.
Oh, they went to England to use a board with a rope to mash down the crops. Oh.
On that note, let's thank Shannon Overland for that fantastic.
You're welcome, guys.
I'll see you next week.
Thank you, honey. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Shannon Overland and the Paraworld News. Actually, next week, I believe Shannon is going to be taking over my seat, and she will be hosting for a
with me.
Really,
we are going to tear it up.
Yeah, before we go, I want to say real quickly, I didn't get this in. Victorian Hunting Experience, October 30th and 31st, Dearborn, Michigan, www.amywilliamson.net. Tons of sponsors: Andrew Brewer, the Rock and Roll Psychic, author Robin Marvel, Saginaw Valley Paranormal, Last Doorway Productions, author Elizabeth Egan Cox, author William Matisse, Tri-City Ghost Hunters, Candles by J Studios 3B, Melissa Bunch Designs, Beverly Van Pelt, Robin Hort, Amy Williams.
Hi guys, welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy.
Nature, Spiritual Connection, and Lulu by Design. Woo! Got it.
Wow, you did it. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Love you.
PT.
Hi guys, welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy.
Cavalier strum his old guitar, words rolling out into the fire. Never ask why my heart burned blue. Here in the haze where you inspire me. Here in the darkness I hear my cue. Time to find some solitude. Here where my soul bleeds openly. Deep in the heart of sin and you. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep into you. Here in the blue, I'm dancing with tonight, and it feels fine.